Hello, hello. Just getting everything set up. You know what? I see a poll feature and I am going to try it and just see what happens today. Um, I'm on my computer, so I don't think I've seen this before, but let's try it out. So I'm going to put a poll in the chat maybe and see if it works. I'm going to experiment today. Okay, so I created a poll. I don't know if it will work on the replay. I don't even know if it will work live. So we're just going to try it. And today we're going to be talking about genius as a spirit. So I put that in the poll just to see, are you familiar with genius as a spirit? Yes or no? And we'll see if this works, because if this exists in the tool, maybe it will be helpful, maybe it won't. I don't know. We're going to try it out and see. Um, and I don't know if anyone is watching. I don't see anybody and I don't see any comments. But if you are watching and you can add one, that would be great to include so I can interact. But I'll check on my phone in a little bit later as well, just to see if it does work. But anyway, so I have a question, and for everyone who watches this on the replay, please add this in to the live, or if you're on YouTube, you can add it as well. And yeah, we want to get our participation up in the group. And so this is a really good one to be able to just easily have. You don't have to come up with any content. It's just right here an answer to the question. So everyone who watches, I will be looking out for your answer. So the question is, what do you think about when you hear the word genius? I know we all know what genius is. So what is it to you? Like, how do you describe it? So that is the question. Please put it in the chat if you're watching this video. And there's a lot of different ideas about the word genius, just the meaning of the word in today's society, maybe something you've read in a book, maybe a person comes to mind, anything there. So the question again is, what do you think of when you hear about the word genius, or you just hear the word genius? So put that in the chat. All right, so I'm going to get started on the content for today. So this is an informational live, and next month I'll actually be doing like a workshop kind of live. So mixing it up a little bit, but today is going to be really purely informational. So the modern usage of the term for genius is really different than what it originated from. So today we think about an intellectual ability or a creative productivity. So somebody who is so smart they can come up with something like a rocket scientist, or you know, just maybe they're like a musician that's just like learned the piano at age 2 or something, like a prodigy. So we think a lot about just a genius as somebody who has this exceptional ability, that they're an exceptional individual as a person, someone special. And, you know, a certain person who's just gifted, or maybe they've worked so hard that they just, you know, have this ability. Maybe they have a higher IQ. They're an extraordinary human. And we think about, like, you know, I'll use like the piano as an example, or like a child prodigy, right? Where it's like, oh, they learned to play Mozart at age 2, so they're just going to have this like infinite upward trajectory from there of becoming like a musical genius, right? So that is kind of how we use the term in modern society. So again, let me know in the chat, does this align to the term that you think of with genius? Is this how you think of genius or not? And just giving you all some time to put that in the chat, whether you're live or on the replay. All right, so this is how we use it today, but it's actually nothing as it was intended in the past. So in modern society, we have really shifted to glorifying a single individual, feeding the ego of that person. And it's so different than what it was. And I think it's really cool because it links a lot into spirituality. So let's look at the word. The word genius is Latin, and it actually means a guardian spirit, an inborn nature, or a generative power. So ultimately, from the Proto Indian European root of gene, Gen, which is to beget or produce. Its meaning evolved from a protective spirit to a person's inherent disposition. So that's the evolution that we see into modern society, where it started out as, this protector, this spiritual protector that is guiding you to someone's like inherent disposition. So we think of inherent disposition as like something about their brain or their personality, their ability, just inherent to that individual. And it could be like an outstanding mental ability or exceptional talent. And this really, changed through the years. And even before that, looking at the word, it comes into, sorry, my phone is blowing up. I need to turn this all off so we don't hear that super annoying vibrating. And just to think about like the word coming from before that in English, it actually comes from the Arabic word of a jinn. So that is Jinn, and you pronounce it with like a strong J, and then you pull out the N. So jinn, and you say the N pretty long. I did check all my pronunciations before. Easier this time than the last one I did. So when we think about the word jinn, that is where the word genie comes from. And genie is then spelled Gen or Genie, more in the English term. It's probably different in Arabic, but they have a completely different language, different alphabet too. So the jinn is considered neither good or bad. It's an independent spirit, it has its own free will. And in modern society, the idea of a jinn really turned a lot into demons. So for anyone who's into like demonology and things like that, that's a whole nother thing to explore, but the idea of the jinn. So we're going to move back to genius, but jinn to genius to genie, all of those are very interconnected into kind of the way that this all works. So that is the word meaning that we have. So let's look at the history. In the original sense, genius refers to a protective guardian spirit in Roman religion, because remember it was a Latin word, so we're going to go to the Romans. And it was believed to be present in every individual. So every individual had a genius attached to them, and this is for the Roman beliefs. Every place had a jinn, or a genius, I should say, attached to them, and everything had a genius attached to them. And if you think about, I'm not as familiar with the Roman mythology, but it's so close to the Greek mythology. And that I do know a fair amount about. And so we think about, like I just did the underworld rivers, and we have the names of the deity, also the name of the river. So that kind of makes a lot of sense when we look at the word genius and how it's connected as well. So the attendant spirit accompanied a person from birth and was seen as the divine essence that gave them their unique character and purpose. And that is aligned back to the protective guardian spirit of a person rather than a place or something. Although potentially it could kind of, it gives them, if it was a thing or a location, it could be the same character and purpose throughout its time too. We think about that definition, it sounds a lot like a spirit guide or a guardian angel, or however you want to think about, things like that. And it definitely has that same like spiritual essence, something that's guiding, protecting, staying with you throughout your life. So let's look at some of the key stages in its evolution from the way that the word has gone through. So through history and kind of some of the meanings here as well. So the Latin root comes from this one I didn't look up the pronunciation, but it's Jig or Gignere, Gignere, which means to beget, and the root gen, to give birth. So for those are the two things. It's like becoming and birth, like things are coming through your life. And then in ancient Rome, it was the guardian spirit. So Romans believed that a genius was a guardian spirit and a divine entity protecting a person from birth and then, to their death. So it stayed with them through their life. In the medieval period, it shifted to more of the inherent character. So it was more about your personality. The gene or the genius was attached more to kind of your essence, like who you were, how you think. It shaped like what you did. So it moved a little bit more just from that protector to more creativity, bringing things in. And then in the Renaissance and more early modern society or Western society, the meaning broadened to exceptional mental ability or a skill in synthesis. So this is kind of now where we're starting to see this more modern approach where it kind of like aided you in what you're doing. So that's the evolution of the idea and how it moved kind of from, at least the early history that we know of into the more modern side. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'm going to check my phone and see if I have any comments because I don't see anything on here. So let me just check that really quick. Facebook is such a pain. Okay, so I do see comments, so thanks for joining. Let me check it on my phone, and sorry, I'll just have to check it intermittently. It's super annoying that does this. So hi, Carol. Hi, Atina. Thank you so much for watching with me. And Atina says, good question. I think about my daughter. She's way better than me. I love that your daughter is a genius. And Carol thinks of genius as exceptional intelligence. That's awesome. Definitely aligned to the definition I shared. Oh, Atina, you heard Jesus. I have a bit of a head cold. I feel like I just am constantly dealing with sinus stuff, so I apologize. I always sound like this these days. Can't do anything about it. But yeah. And it's a Latin word. Yes, big time 360 from going from genius to, or Jesus to genius. And Atina says Arabic is another language that sounds so great, even though it's a little strong. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful language. I love listening to Arabic. Actually, it's one of my favorite languages. Hi, Christy. Welcome. All right, so I will check the comments again periodically, but I can't see them on my computer for whatever reason. I have no idea if the poll worked, but if you see a poll, please answer it. Just trying it out, so we'll see. Maybe it doesn't work at all. Okay, so let me go back to my notes. So going back to the Romans, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about what they have going on. So in the Roman time, each person was believed to have a genius, a divine spirit that watched over them through their life. And they actually split it by gender. So the Romans, the genius was attached to men, and then Juno was attached to women. So I kind of thought about maybe shifting the information in this more towards Juno because all of us are women in this group. But I decided to keep it aligned to genius because that's the word that we talk about. And I really wanted to talk more about the concepts. But know that in the Roman times that genius was for men and then Juno was for women. So that's something if you're more interested in really working with this and you identify as a woman, then you would really probably want to work more with the Juno spirit. But going back just for the sake of learning today, we're going to just focus on the genius. So it kind of started really as this idea of it being attached to an individual, but they also extended it out to their family. So in some of the Roman cultures, they would really think about the genius being more about like a protector for the family or, the spirit for that family and guiding through the family. So it's kind of interesting to see that shift and then it go back to the the individual as I was studying. So I thought that was interesting concept, but really the genius was often worshipped within the family, and that they even saw in it was like some people or some areas or some traditions or groups. I didn't see a definition on the breakdown, but I saw very different things in my research, that some Romans were very connected to it as a family genius, and that as new babies were born and people died and things like that, the genius would move from family member to family member. And then in other Roman traditions that I saw, it was no mention of that, and it was completely all about the individual. So don't know, but it was interesting to see the difference in that. I don't know when or where it split. I couldn't find any information on that, and or if it was regional or anything. So I don't have any answers aligned to that, but I did think it was really interesting that there was two very different ways to work with the genius. And really, the idea of this is so much tied to the generation of life force. So it kind of makes sense moving from the family unit, as new life comes in, that it would maybe move from person to person. Um, and, as we look again at the modern, it goes more towards this spiritual source, that there's the genius has this, modern, I guess, like we talked about, sorry, getting confused in my notes, but the modern side of it just being really just your individual ability, it's taken out the spirit. But when we look at the modern connection and we think about how can we have a modern connection with the meaning of the word that we kind of, know today, and bring it back to the spirituality, as we can think about suggesting this as being more of a spiritual thought rather than something that you actually create. And so that's how I got turned on to this idea. I read a book a couple of years ago. I could look up the title, I can't think of it offhand. Not really a witchy book. It was about like creativity and living a creative life. And it talked about this idea, and I had no idea that it existed, and I've been learning about it since. But thinking about the idea of like a spark of genius or something being maybe a message for you from spirit. And it's a unique spark that maybe divine light or an idea or a whisper from a god or whoever, however you define these things, like bringing that in. Throughout history and the myths and things, they also have specific genii, or Genii. So you'll see that through some of the Roman literature as well. And they have their own well-established names, their specific genus or genius and genii that come through and work with different deities. They work with different heroes and characters throughout the myths, and they perform certain tasks. So there's quite a few of them throughout the various myths and things, especially in the Roman ones. So this part talks a little bit more about that family unit. So they would apply the individual places or people that were not generally known to everyone, and the smallest units of society and settlements. That's where a lot of the genius would go to. So they would connect to various families and their homes. They would often be connected to different houses, doors, gates, streets, districts, tribes, and each of those had their own genius attached. And I think it's interesting as we see the evolution of things like the crossroads and locations that kind of have this specific energy, like having this idea of genius maybe being attached to that too. And also in the supreme hierarchy of the Roman gods, like that of the Greeks, it was modeled after human family. So the Greeks had their own family, like the Olympus, and then of course the Romans kind of just, copied and pasted and revised a few things into their own. And they would often have like a father figure, which was Jupiter, and then also the supreme divine unity, and a mother, or Juno, which would be the queen of the gods. So these supreme unities were subdivided into various genius for each individual family. Hence, the genius was of each female, representing the female reproductive power was a Juno, and then the male power was a Jupiter. So that's that split again between the male and female. And the energies you can think of kind of branching down through, the Juno and the Jupiter energy. So that's kind of it on the information. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how you could work with genius and thinking about how maybe you could reshape some of the way that you think about ideas coming to you and just working with kind of spirit on these types of endeavors. I think this is something that is very personal to each individual and something that you would align to the way that you currently work with deity, that you currently work with spirit. So you shouldn't really like completely revise that. But one of the things, and this was in the book that I read, was this idea of a genius coming to you with an idea. And we kind of see this a lot with various artists, right? It's like something becomes very popular and trendy almost, or a lot of people come up with the same idea at the same time. And this idea is that a genius will come to you with an idea, whether that's through like a dream or just a random thought, and you're like, where did that come from? Why am I getting this information? But it has like an action, right? Like, oh, I'm going to create this painting, or I'm going to write a book about this, or, this is a poem I want to do, or I'm going to build something, like something very tangible that would get out to other people, especially. So it's not so much about just something for you. It's about something you would create maybe for society, for a community. And you just get this idea out of nowhere. Consider that maybe it is a spirit coming to you with this idea. And if you don't act on it, they may go to someone else. And that was, what was shared in the book, is that you get this idea, and if you pass it on, somebody else is going to do it. And we do see that. You may have been like, oh, I have an idea for something. And then, a year later, you see it. You see it out there in the world, and you're like, oh, maybe I could have done that. It moved on to someone else. Or maybe multiple genius, or a genius can reach out to multiple people at the same time. Maybe they want a bunch of people to write this type of book or this message or this thing to get out to society to shape things. I mean, spirit is shaping the world that we're in. And, when you get these kind of random ideas for doing or creating something or putting it out there, maybe it's spirit. And I think this idea of a genius really captures that when we think about it that way. So what do you think of that? What do you think of this idea? And also, do you have any examples? Like, do you have an example in your life where you're like, yeah, I had this idea to do something, and did you do it? Or did you say, no, I didn't do it? And if you didn't do it, did you see it happen in real life later? I'd love to hear, any personal examples that anyone has on any of that stuff. So ways that you can kind of work on this is, or I guess before that, just really the idea of genius it coming to you. It's more about an idea that would be a collective thought, like maybe something that you would share with others. And you feel this like need or expression to get it out to others and to do something. You're like, this is going to shape how people think or how people do something, or you want to, make an art that makes people feel a certain way or see things from a certain perspective, whether that's like a painting or a poem or a song or anything like that. And you see this a lot kind of with different artists and magicians and witches and other spiritual circles, where you start to see these different ideas bubbling up, different concepts bubbling up. And it's like independent from each other. Like, how did they all come up with these similar ideas or, thoughts? And you just kind of start to see it bubbling up. And it's pretty cool to see. Just people, artists, they get ideas from each other and things too. You could potentially explain all of this in the mundane, but it seems like there may be a little bit something more. So I find that it's super interesting concept and a way to think about things. And since I read that in the book a couple of years ago, I've really thought about these ideas that come to me kind of out of the blue really differently. So ways that you can work with this, you would work with it very much the way that you already work with spirit. So I wouldn't want people to completely just change their whole dynamics or anything like that, but you can build on this. So you're like, oh, I got this idea out of nowhere and I want to act on it. So you could start doing offerings. You could build an offer. You could petition your genius. You could try to invoke your genius. There's a lot of things that you could do to be like, hey, I need some more insight. I need some more help. Like, say you want to write a book, and that's a big undertaking, right? You're like, I need all these things in my life to happen so that I can get that book out there, so that I can do this. You can work with that genius because they've already selected you with the idea. And then you can work with them to give them offerings for what you need in order to accomplish that endeavor. And these are things I've just been doing for myself, and it's worked very well to try to open roads and remove blockages. And I don't have any big ideas, but for smaller things that I've been doing, it's been working really well. Or working with collective groups to be able to do what we need to do, because it's like I'm being driven to work on this and do these things with people. My husband is a songwriter, and he has actually been incorporating some of this as well. So he's gotten some ideas for songs through dreams, and then he writes them and brings them to life and gets them out there, and connects to the spirit to be like, okay, what can I do to bring that forward? And he's not super spiritual, but he likes the concept and has kind of like looked at that a little bit when I've shared it. And he's like, someone else provided the info for the dream. That's kind of how he would, or the info for the song. Like he got the message somehow and he wrote the song, and that's like what he'll say on stage and things. So another example, I'm trying to find something for myself, like maybe art, or I don't know. I'm still figuring out my path, but this idea has definitely opened up a world of possibility for me. So that is it for the information. Let me check my phone again so that I can read comments. So I'll get through the comments that are left, and then if there's any questions, please let me know. And then we'll wrap up. Move over. Of course, it doesn't like keep the screen open that I was at. Sorry, y'all. Technology is not my friend today. Yeah, so I have no idea what happened to the poll. It just says create poll and stick it in, so I did. I've never seen that option before on Facebook on my computer, so I thought I would experiment. Sorry if it doesn't work. I've never seen it as a participant, and I've never seen it as a host, I guess. So I don't know. Facebook is weird. Thought I would try it, but clearly didn't work. Christy is asking, am I the only one that thinks this is confusing? I'm not really sure what you mean, like what aspect is confusing, but I can try to answer any questions you have. I'm not sure what that question, like how to answer that question, but I'm sorry if you found it confusing. Just trying to make it clear. And yes, Carol, this is an informational, this isn't purely informational live. There's a part 2. Carol's mentioning there's a part 2. There's no part 2 for this particular live. I'm not sure if the comments are coming in order or not, but for this live, this is just one of one. And Christy mentioned that she was thinking about country singers, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of country singers that all come out with like very similar songs at the same time. So I think that is a great example. And Christy says, how do you differentiate between genius ideas and your own ideas? I think that is a great question. So I think discernment is the word that a lot of times is used in sort of spiritual psychic development. It's kind of the same thing. Like, how would you know that if you're like a psychic medium, like how do you know that you're hearing someone else versus you're hearing your own thoughts, or um, you're connecting to a deity versus yourself. So these are all very subtle and very unique to each person's clair abilities and their own development of those abilities. So it would be using the same discernment that you would for anything, right? And that takes a lot of time to build up and to identify in yourself and to know, this is part of our practice, right? Like really learning these things. So I would say, working with a genius is the same as it would be for anything else. You'd have to develop discernment on these things, and it wouldn't be something like, oh, you just know. Or if you didn't know yesterday, you wouldn't now know today, right? It takes years of practice. So for me, this is something that I was introduced to this concept about 2-ish years ago. And so it's something I've really been thinking about when I have ideas. And I sort of ask, I'm like, is this like something that I know about? Like, if it's an idea out of the blue, that is one indicator that it could be from a genius. Something coming through dreams, like things that I've never thought about, and then just having like an idea, that to me is an indicator. And then I pursue that. I think about, okay, is this something, I try to ask. I can ask the genius, I can petition, I can write it down, I can really sit with the idea and kind of work with it and see if I get more messages from there. That's unique to my practice. Those are some of the checks that I do in various things. But again, discernment is the key word I would have there, just for any other type of spiritual work that you do. Like, how do you discern other aspects of your spirituality? I would apply that to this as well. All right, let's see what else I got here. Carol can't think of any ideas for herself or anything that came to me. That is completely fine. Yeah, the poll, I have no clue. Just thought I would try it since I saw it. Christy mentioned, sorry all, that she got lost at the family members, but she'll go back and listen again. Oh, okay. So the family, so the idea of genius, kind of most of the time I saw that it was linked to an individual, like the genius would visit one person or be attached to a certain thing. So there was kind of different ideas behind this that I found in my research. So some say that it's from like a person from the very beginning of their life to the death. And then others would say that it's attached to like a physical object or a physical location, and that it stays at that physical thing. So it'd be like attached to a person, like tethered to a person or tethered to a thing or environment. And then others, which I think aligns more with kind of that jinn idea, is that it has its own free will and it can move around. And so if it moves around, it can move from person to person. It has kind of its own entity to it, and it could move into different areas. And then others say that it was like attached to the family, and then it stays with the family. It moves from person to person within the family. So those are kind of 3 different areas of research that I found. I don't know, who thinks what or where. It was not an easy, this was not an easy topic to research in terms of the history and things like that. I spent actually a lot of time researching it, and there's not a lot of sources out there, which, it's kind of cool. It's just not, I don't think it's that well of a known concept, even though back, when people spoke Latin, no one would think of a genius as your intellect. It would have been completely a spirit. So interesting how it's shifted over the years. And then Carol mentioned that there would be a workshop in thinking it was part 2. No, so the next live, my next live in January is going to be building a Pyxis altar, and I'll explain what that is, and then I'll build it on the live. So that's for next month. All right. Well, I don't really see any other questions coming in. So thank you for those that joined. And for those on the replay, definitely be sure to add your comments, answer the questions through the live so that you can easily comment throughout. I try to make it easy for you and you can answer the questions, interact with others as well. We definitely want interactivity. And I'll keep this one short and sweet. And I hope you are all enjoying the month. And if you have questions, let me know and I'll check the comments periodically. Have a great day. Bye.